Michigan's short track racing authority is Horsepower Happenings.
Charlie Bauer, welcome into Horsepower Happenings.
Scotty Thiel, welcome to Horsepower Happenings.
John Beach, welcome into Horsepower Happenings.
Adam Terry, welcome into Horsepower Happenings.
Paul Pelletier.
Korbyn Hayslett, Riley Knoll.
Matt Cup, Dylan Stovall, welcome into Horsepower Happenings.
From pavement to dirt, modifieds to sprint cars, hear from drivers, promoters, track owners, and many other industry leaders.
We worked on that car for 12 days straight, and when I got to the speedway Saturday, I was out of gas. I had to take a nap.
You're out there and, you know, that groove, if you're outside of it, you could be a couple tenths off or even half a second off.
It is not the shock that you've won all these races. You know what I mean? There's so many pieces to the puzzle to make these cars go fast.
I don't care what he says. I saw a thing on Facebook on somebody's post that's now been deleted that one of his crew guys said that the spotter told him car low and I wrecked him.
With over 50 years of experience from racing to management, here are Zach Heiser and Rich France.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome into Horsepower Happenings. A few moments delayed nonetheless, but we are here, and we've got a big show coming up for you tonight. We'll talk with Korbyn Hayslett, who got the broom out this weekend. Ram Thompson, who's going to be an award winner this winter. A very exciting interview with him coming up during Credentialed with Koty Geyer. And is he the Yawn of the Week nominee? I don't think so, but we can talk about it. Steve Needles will be on the program tonight as well. But let's take a look at some things happening in a Mark News Minute. World of NASCAR, they returned to Chicagoland over the weekend, and they got a very Chicago-esque greeting, rain and storms and wind and nastiness. But they were able to get the races in. So Friday night in the ARCA Menard Series, Connor Mozak went to victory lane. Saturday in the O'Reilly Series, it was Brandon Jones. And then Sunday in the Cup Series, Chase Briscoe fended off Christopher Bell, who ran him down under a green flag run and got right to his bumper but could not get around him. Chase Briscoe goes to victory lane, his first of the season. Max Blair went from the 15th starting spot to grab the biggest win of his career in Saturday night's Freedom 50 at Muskingum County Speedway. That was with the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series. The win, a $25,000 payday came with it. That was his second career win with the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series. And after coming up one spot short a year ago, Brendan Shepard dominated the Herald and Review 100 at Macon Speedway last night as part of the Dirt Car Summer Nationals. That win netted him $7,500. Those things and so much more happening tonight on Horsepower Happenings. Good evening. Welcome in. I'm Zach Heiser. Rich France joins me from across the way. What's going on, sir?
I'm ready for tonight. Are you? You want to do this? USA. USA. There we go.
USA. Yeah. So a little Monday Night Football. Matt Swander, who's been a longtime fan and supporter of the program, used to give us a hard time on Tuesdays during the fall and winter when we'd talk about Lions football. But World Cup, USA football on a Monday night. Come on, we got to talk about it. This is fun. This is the most soccer I've ever watched in my life, Rich. I watched probably a combined 60 to 70 minutes of soccer last week, caught almost an entire match, and I am actually looking forward to tonight's contest from Seattle. How about you?
I've watched a few games in the past week, the complete games, but I grew up. I played soccer as a kid all the way up to high school, so I was really involved in it, in the growth of soccer in the United States when it was just starting to become popular at the beginning of it. And, usually I like to get on. You're going to love this. Usually when we get off of here, I'm going to watch the 500 Sprint Car Tour iRacing.
Yes, the Sim Series.
The Sim Series. So I'm usually, I'm Noah Longyear, our producer, is in that every single week. So I'm kind of showing him our love, right?
Yeah.
And support and watching that. And tonight we got Kankakee on as well for the Dirt Car Summer Nationals. Man, I'm going to be going to all three channels trying to find out what's going on.
Well, I do want to talk about that for just a second. We are behind schedule. That's my fault. I apologize for that. But I do want to talk about Summer Nationals Hell Tour is coming into Michigan this week, Rich. Now, have you been following the Summer Nationals closely? I know sometimes you're kind of a sleeper there, and you keep up with what's going on. What do you know as the Summer Nationals gets ready to come into town?
I know Tanner English has spread out his lead over the last week over Jason Fager in the what is it, 35 races in 36 days or something like that. They actually got more of a break because the week before last, they had like 5 or 6 rainouts in a row.
Wow.
so they had everybody had traveling, but they never raced. So now we're getting them. It's a pretty tight battle, and those boys are going to come to Michigan this week.
Let me tell you what we've got so far, and I'm going to do late models. Things started back on Tuesday, June 9th. Since then, Rich, the following drivers have gone to victory lane: Shannon Babb, Jason Fager, Shannon Babb, Brian Shirley, Jason Fager, Chris Simpson, Jason Fager, Cade Dillard, Billy Moyer Sr. ruins the pattern, Sean Seawright, Jason Fager, Tanner English, Jason Fager, Frank Heckenash Jr., Tanner English helps develop a new pattern, and now Brandon Shepard back to victory lane, as we talked about on Sunday night. So will we see the Jason Fager show this week? Because that's what the pattern tells us is likely to happen.
I don't know, because you may see the Rusty Schlenk show at the tracks that they're coming to, right?
Yeah.
He's going to be awfully comfortable. Man, if he looked good last night. If he didn't break and leading that heat race, running second in the heat race, at Macon. I don't know. I don't remember what he broke, but he didn't even come out for the last chance qualifier, so he got a provisional and had to start at the back. But I think he still finished 11th, which is pretty good getting through that field.
Summit Equipment Modifieds have been a complete wide open basket. Nobody's really dominating. You're getting some of your regulars, Michael Ledford, victory lane over the weekend, as well as Mike Harris, Trevor Neville. But then other than that, it's kind of been a mixed bag. Justin Haley's gone to victory lane. Michael Long, I guess, is a two-time Summit Equipment Modifieds winner. Zeke McKenzie, we missed this. Saturday, June 13th, Zeke McKenzie found a win. Mike Harrison has 2 wins on the Hell Tour so far this year. So there's a couple of names to watch as they come into this region. Again, Kankakee tonight, Rich. Tomorrow, Montpelier. Wednesday, I-96 Speedway. Thursday, Butler Motor Speedway. Friday, Crystal Motor Speedway. Saturday, Oakshade Raceway. And then they wrap things up on Sunday from Wayne County.
Yeah, pretty cool. Mike Harrison's won the last 2 modified races. And
has he?
Yeah, Mike Harrison has. He went back to back. And
they've got Michael Ledford listed as the winner from the Herald and Review 100.
Really? I think McKinney. I thought McKinney won it last night.
Michael Ledford and then Mike
Harrison. I thought Harrison won it.
They've got Michael Ledford listed on DirtCarSummerNationals.com.
I know Harrison won the night before. It was his first time out. They just brought a car out. And our friend of the program, Zeke McKenzie, is the point leader. I know that for sure.
Okay. All right. Good for him. Yeah, absolutely. Let me verify you on that. That is true. Zeke holds a 92-point lead over Ray Bollinger and Damian Kiefer, 354 points back. So really, here at the end, if Zeke can show up and kind of handle business, he should be the champion of the Dirt Car Summit Equipment Modifieds. On the late model side of things, Jason Fager's got some work to do. Tanner English with the win now opens up to a 108-point advantage. Jason Fager second. And then it's Clay Stuckey, Mitch McGrath, and Brody Smith who round out the top 5. And, of course, they'll have to deal with a swath of locals in this competition here this
Clay
week.
Stuckey.
That's what I said. I don't know what you heard, but that's what I said was Clay Stuckey.
I just love it when you start reading people's names. It's like, I got to be ready.
You never know. Okay, Rich, let's take a look at the weekend winners. We got to get moving. We're behind schedule. Is there a Yawn of the Week award? We'll find out. Who do we have for the weekend winners? And you can start with Reveal the Hammer from Berlin.
Yeah. We're going to start off with Berlin. Reveal the Hammer. Man, that was a tough race. You didn't. We'll talk with Steve Needles more about this here in a little bit, but Steve Needles had it stretched out, and the caution comes out with a half a lap to go, and they go back to 2 to go. So it's him and Trayton Lapsovich on the restart. And Trayton Lapsovich was not awake off of turn 4. And Steve Needles,
man.
Yeah. So the bottom line is, really quick, there is a start box at the Berlin Raceway that is painted for their weekly racing series that they have to start in. The Reveal the Hammer does not have to go by that start box. They can go when they feel like it.
Oh, the leader has control, eh?
Yeah. Yep. Well, yeah. So on the first restart, Trayton Lapsovich took off way early, like 4 car lengths ahead of Needles. They called that back, and Lapsovich was going to be sitting and waiting. He couldn't have a second penalty. Needles just buried it and drove away from him and left him sitting in turn 4. And Tyler Rohrig went flying by Lapsevich, and it was pretty much Needles was gone by then just to run 2. It was 2 qualifying laps, and he was pretty good. But yeah, Steve Needles, Tyler Rohrig finished in the 2nd spot. Adam Terry, nice run, bringing it home 3rd. That was the Spirit of 76. 76 laps at Berlin they ran. Other Berlin winners last night, Zach, or on Saturday, the limited late models, Tyler Reisinga and Billy Epping. Tyler Reisinga had a nasty wreck.
Huge wreck in the 2nd race.
The 2nd race, yeah. Man, I was really worried. That looked pretty nasty. In the Sportsman, Tim DeVos and Kevin Ford took the wins, and the 4-cylinder, Chase Roloffs and Luke Boma took home the wins.
Tim DeVos may be a Yawn of the Week nominee. Tim DeVos has been tearing it up. He set a track record in qualifying with Reveal the Hammer earlier in the day as well. Tri-City Motor Speedway in the late models, Eric Spengler gets his 2nd win of the season, first at Tri-City. Colin Thurlby, maybe a Yawn of the Week nominee, Rich. Colin Thurlby in the
the next one. The next one.
Oh, Pro Stocks, Nate Murphy. Yawn of the Week. He goes to Victory Lane. Nick Putman. We need a graphic for that, Noah. Put that on the note card. We need a Yawn of the Week graphic. Street Stocks. Nick Putman goes to Victory Lane. Here's another Yawn of the Week. Chad Freeman in the Bombers. Rhett Faust in the 6 to 9-year-old mini wedges, and Kaysen Murphy in the 10 to 14-year-old mini wedges.
Then we went over to Silver Bullet Speedway, and one of your group was over there, Zach. We're going to talk to a gentleman that picked up the win in the Great Lakes traditional sprints, the 410 non-wing. Korbyn Hayslett picked up the win. In the Pro Lates, it was Jordan Petrat. Street Stocks, Eric Lake picked up the win. In the Road Warriors, it was Bradley Smith. Mini wedges, 8 and under, Lucas Van Sickle, and 9 and over, Kylie Watts took the win.
And to wrap up the weekend, which didn't have a ton of racing in it, Winston Speedway, Brandon Thurlby goes to Victory Lane. Rodney is at Van Ader, I believe, in the Pro Late Models. Bob Finley, which really stopped me in my tracks when I read that, picked up the Street Stocks win. Mike Goodwin in the Cyber Stocks. Blake Short, mini wedges 6 to 9. And
you want me to do it?
Yes,
I introduced her at the fan club banquet for her plaque.
Okay, do it.
Eliana Sharon.
Okay, I could have got there, but there was a lot of consonants and vowels in there that
yes,
I'm not sure they're all necessary, but it's very pretty. So there you go. Okay, Chad Freeman, Nate Murphy, Yawn of the Week. Congratulations, you get nothing. We're not tired of seeing you win, but goodness gracious, let somebody else play. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are talking to Korbyn Hayslett, who brought a broom with him to Michigan with the Great Lakes Traditional Sprints. That's coming up next right here on the Horsepower Happenings podcast.
The Horsepower Happenings podcast is Michigan's short track racing authority. For nearly a decade, Horsepower Happenings has given race fans a chance to hear directly from their favorite drivers, local track owners, and promoters. Horsepower Happenings is the only podcast keeping fans engaged with Michigan area racing for 52 weeks a year. Don't miss the Horsepower Happenings podcast live on Facebook every Monday night at 6:30 and available everywhere you enjoy podcasts. Visit horsepowerhappenings.com and follow on Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube.
Make sure your brand stands out from the crowd with Madman signs and designs. Flashy, clean, color, or simplistic, Madman signs and designs can make sure your race car, business vehicle, merchandise, or even your iRacing rig looks exactly how you dreamed it would. Get designs that help your brand, team, or business stand out from the crowd with the Madman at Madman Signs and Designs. Call 517-647-9573 or find Madman Signs and Designs on Facebook. One of the biggest question marks for your event is, what are we going to do for food? Heavenly Smoked Barbecue is your answer. Serving Michigan and Northern Indiana, Heavenly Smoked Barbecue brings the best from the grill to your plate with pulled pork, pork belly, chicken, mac and cheese, baked beans, and more. Graduation open house, birthday parties, weddings, festivals. If it needs food, Heavenly Smoked Barbecue will offer options that will have them saying, that smells heavenly. Call 269-908-3948 or find Heavenly Smoked Barbecue on Facebook.
Welcome back to the Horsepower Happenings podcast. It's our pleasure now to welcome in our first guest, and he brought a broom with him to Michigan this weekend. I would have liked to have seen what he could have done Friday at Hartford Speedway, but Mother Nature took that one from him. He is the current points leader for the Great Lakes Traditional Sprints. Korbyn Hayslett, welcome in.
Thank you.
Well, I tell you what, the last time you and I talked and you were on this program, it was after your first career sprint car win, which came at Butler Motor Speedway with the Great Lakes Traditional Sprints. Since then, man, you've been tearing them up. I mean, it's been Great Lakes Traditional Sprints, Boss. You went over to Mansfield. Man, what a run you've had in these last probably 400 days or so.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely been, a dream come true, right? Like we expressed the last time we got to talk about the Butler one. Yeah, we finally, we kind of struggled at the beginning of the year, like had a fast race car, but just couldn't get luck to go our way, or we'd miss it just a little bit come feature time. And, we were just like a top 5 car. But yeah, Mansfield, like I think we went in with a bunch of confidence and we tried some things and it worked. And hopefully, well, obviously, it's been kind of being able to continue that role through Merritt and Silver Bullet, both, 2 places we haven't seen before. But like I said, a lot of confidence in my race car and a lot of confidence in my dad and Landon for setting it up. We've been pretty quick here recently.
10 races, 10 top 10s, 9 top 5 finishes in the races that are listed on my race pass for this season. And I'm fifth, 6th, 4th, 2nd. Then you go to Eldora, which gets rained out. Then we're back on the 5th streak, and now 3 in a row. Did you find something to get those next 4 positions, or I mean, what changed here now that the calendar's rolled into the middle of summer?
I feel like not a whole lot. Like we've kind of just been doing the same stuff we've been doing. I think for the longest time we struggled. We just weren't getting quite tight enough, for the feature. We were really good the first 10 to 15 laps. We had a car that could contend for the lead the first half of the race. And then as everybody else's stuff would either get better or be able to hang on and continue that speed, our stuff would kind of fall off. So I think, back to Mansfield, like we kind of tried to just a little bit and tried to keep the car a little tighter, longer for the feature, and it worked. The car was a rocket ship. My life was made really easy as a driver. I think, we're trying to continue that and not get complacent when we are quick in the beginning of the night and not be afraid to make changes because, the track's going to blow off at the end.
Korbyn, what's it like? I mean, when we talked to you after your first sprint car, I mean, you were still running good then. You just finally won at Butler, I guess. And now, man, ever since then, you've been on a roll. Is it positivity inside your head, in the driver's seat, inside the helmet, your team just clicking on everything? I mean, what do you put all that? And you got to have a consistent car that's not breaking down, nothing's falling apart on it. Is it a little bit of everything?
Yeah, I think it's that right there. Like you said, it's a little bit of everything. I think we gained a lot of confidence after the first one at Butler. That kind of showed all of us that yes, we do have a team and a car capable of winning. And then we got the one at Atomic at the end of the year last year, and then these 3 in a row with consistent top 5 runs. I think we're all hungry for that next win each week, and I think we got a car that's capable of doing that every weekend. We're just, building confidence. And when we show up with confidence, I feel like we don't tend to miss little things, and we go out there with the mindset that, we're here to win.
And when you win a few in a row like that, is it better time in the shop, better time rolling into the racetrack with your head up? And, everybody's looking at you, right? You're going to become the hunted.
Yeah, I definitely think it brings the morale of the team up. It definitely makes shop days a lot easier knowing that, we've got a car that, can put some wins together. So yeah, like I said, again, with the confidence, it's nice going into a racetrack knowing that, we have the car to do it. So as long as we all kind of keep our heads together and, I can do my job and Dad and Bug can do theirs, we should, there's no reason that we shouldn't, be able to stand on the podium.
Okay, so you're in the points all of a sudden for Great Lakes Traditional Sprints, and we and Aaron worked pretty hard to stay off of each other's dates this year. There's a couple of conflicts, and when you look at what's going on with the Buckeye Outlaw Sprints, you have this is ironic, you have about the exact same points lead with Boss as you do with Great Lakes Traditional Sprints. We're less than 30 points. Your one with Boss is very tight. With us, it's about 30 points. How are you managing that? And is the goal to hopefully get some rainouts in the right spots to be able to get both? What are you trying to do this year?
Yeah, we went into the year with the mindset to try and win both championships. Obviously, like you hit on there are two nights this year that we need. I don't, whether it be Boss or whether it be GLTS, one of the two, we need a rain out on those nights to keep us in the hunt. But yeah, I think I try and keep points, in the very back of my mind. I try and show up to win races. I think when my points race, I tend to get complacent and maybe not make certain moves that I should be to try and win races. So however they shake out, they shake out. But yeah, the goal is definitely to if we can catch the rainouts right and hopefully walk away with 2 championships at the end of the year.
I think the good thing is that the formats are, if not identical now, they're very close. So you kind of know what you're getting when you roll in. But the competition is a little bit different, I think. And what I mean by that is you never know what's going to roll in there. And sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes that's a bad thing. And I had to chuckle to myself over the weekend at what the average age of the Great Lakes Traditional Sprints field was when we were racing over the weekend. And that's not a bad thing. There's a lot of knowledge there and there's a lot of ability there when you're racing against those veterans. And then you go down to Ohio, and we've got some races scheduled down there too. And you never know what sort of young talent is going to join in there and kind of mix things up and really kind of throw you some curveballs. And I just imagine that that's got to be one of the most intriguing things about non-wing racing right now is you just never know who and what is going to roll out of the trailer.
Yeah, like down at Lima Land, I think it was earlier this year, we had guys like, Gunnar Setzer and Jack Hoyer, and those guys show up at Lima, and we go up to Michigan, and we're racing against guys that I may have never heard of or seen before, but they're fast every time they hit the racetrack. So I think like you're saying there, that's the beauty of non-wing racing is when you go to some of these places, the local guys are no joke. They've raced there for years upon years, and they know the place like the back of their hand. So when a touring series comes in, they make a statement that they're not to be messed with, and they have every shot to to win the race as much as we do.
Explain to anybody. A lot of people don't get to see non-wing racing very much around here, right? I mean, they can go to Butler, see 410 sprints, go follow Zach around and see 360 wing sprints, but you got like the opposite. You have all kind of horsepower and absolutely nothing to make those tires stick to the racetrack.
Yeah, the wing stuff's got a ton of downforce, and that's why I try and always, the people that come around us and friends and family who have maybe never been to a dirt race before, I try and tell them that the wing cars and us, we have the same motors. When we go to like Eldora and things like that, we both run 410 motors, but they're going to look a lot faster, and that is because of the downforce. I think, wing racing, when you get to the half mile stuff, becomes a lot more aero dependent. And it takes, I don't want to say everything out of the driver's hand, but it does take a little bit of stuff out of the driver's hand. It does become more car dependent, and air dependent when you're racing wing cars on a half mile. So I've always felt like the non-wing stuff has been, a little more driver oriented. The driver can, kind of make up in some areas if the setup isn't quite 100%. But then again, I've never driven a wing car, so I can't, 100% say that that's how it is in the wing stuff. But that's just kind of how I come to, notice it as we watch.
You think that's why you chose to go to non-wing instead of getting a wing car, because it's really more, like you said, on the driver. If the driver's not doing his job, you're not going to win in a non-wing sprint car.
Really, to be honest with you, the only reason we kind of haven't, and we've kicked it around, we've talked about it, but the reason we never pull the trigger on the wing stuff is we don't have the funds to do it as competitively as we would like. In the non-wing stuff, you don't need 950 horsepower to run the car with top-notch talent, because like you were saying, you'll blow the tires off the thing. And the wing stuff, they can get every ounce of horsepower to the ground if the track has just a little bit of moisture in it. So we just don't have the funds to be able to have a motor that's capable of running at that competitive level that we would like, kind of like we are in the non-wing stuff.
I want to take a quick second here to say thank you to our sponsor for tonight's interview. That is the Muffler Man of Coldwater, and they are a great supporter of Horsepower Happenings. And I tell you what, we support our supporters. I got 4 brand new tires put on my truck, 4-wheel drive, 3/4 ton truck, and I came in at under $1,000 for 4 tires. Now, that may have been a fluke, may have been a special, but it came with an alignment. They put in some TPMS sensors for me as well. They treated me right. They looked over the truck as well before I hit the road for, golly, what am I at this month? 2,500 miles, and it's the 6th day of the month. But they took care of me, and they'll take care of you too. Muffler Man in Coldwater is a hand-cooked tire dealer. They are so much more than just exhausts. They are full car, full service maintenance, oil changes, tie rod ends, wheel bearings, anything that needs done with your vehicle, they can get you taken care of at the Muffler Man in Coldwater. And they are racer owned and operated too, so they understand what it takes sometimes to get up and down the road and get to where you need to be. So check out the Muffler Man in Coldwater. Give them a call. Let them know we sent you. 517-279-9896. Or just stop in and see them. Check them out online at at mufflermancoldwater.com. Okay, Korbyn, I want to get into your weekend now. Starts on a Thursday, which was not technically part of the holiday weekend, so there's some logistical challenges there, but we make it work. We get up to Merritt, and qualifying was a bit of a unique situation. We had to, we got the track polished off and got it ready to go, and then you go out there and your transponder's dead. And I've always wondered this about a driver. When you go out there and you feel like, you give it your all in qualifying, and then they come over the radio and say, 1H, you need a new transponder. What's going through your head, man? Like, do you feel like you've already given your best effort out there on the track and now you got to go try to do it again?
It definitely brings the nerves back, right? Qualifying is a big part of the night. It sets up the heat race, and then that can kind of determine your night, really. The qualifying, usually you go out and you hold your breath for 2 laps and you run the car, as hard as humanly possible, without making any mistakes. When they came over the race receiver and said that, I kind of had to reset my mind. At first I was panicking to make sure we got another transponder in and back to the grid in time and stuff. Then I just had to, close my eyes and take a deep breath and kind of get my mind reset to go back out and do it again. But yeah, no, it definitely brings the nerves back out because, like I said, you prepare yourself for those 2 laps, and when they're over, you take a breath. But when you got to do it again, it definitely makes you a little nervous.
All right, so you set fast time, you go out, you win your heat race, and then you've got 25 laps around a Merritt Speedway that was kind of locked down on the bottom, which was interesting because it had a lot of moisture in it, but for whatever reason, you guys were locked down, and you had a comfortable lead. And I don't know if you know this or not, but Brian Smith was coming. I mean, I think another 5 laps or a caution, and we've got a race on our hands. Take me through your feature at Merritt and kind of talk about how that race evolved.
Yeah, after redrawing the pole, I knew we had a fast car all night. The confidence was there, in having a car to win. I had it in my mind that, the bottom had been quick all night, so as a driver, as long as I wasn't, getting a big threat on the outside, I wasn't going to leave the bottom. Dad told me there after it was all said and done that Brian, was coming. He was clicking off, a 10th, 2/10 a lap. I think that I probably could have made a line change and moved to the middle. I think that's where Brian was running, was about a car or 2 off the bottom. I felt it when I passed the lap car, our stuff felt good, but I just didn't want to make that move off the bottom, and get snookered. And then, I'd be mad that I did, what I said that I wasn't going to do. That's the hard part about leading these things is you just never know who's coming and where they're running and, the way the racetrack's changing. So you try and stay vigilant as much as you can. It felt like it was working. So I definitely wasn't going to change it at the time.
How hard is that on your senses? I mean, you have to have some kind of feel to know if somebody's coming. Are you listening? Can you feel the vibration of another car next to you? How do you know before it's too late?
I can usually hear them kind of right as they're at the bumper. I can hear whether they're on the inside or the outside of me. So I think, had Brian got close enough that I could hear him, I maybe would have made the line change to the middle just to try and block some. But yeah, usually you can hear them coming about a lap before they get to you, unless if somebody's really got a bunch more speed. And then, that gives you about, half a lap to a lap to get your line changed to try and counter them.
I wanted to know, that race had I'm trying to remember without getting everything mixed together, but I think that race had 3 slowdowns. One of them was an unintentional red, which we all know those can sometimes be hairy. Thankfully, it wasn't very long, so you didn't have to worry too much. But how are those stoppages? I mean, are those beneficial to you early in the race because you kind of get a feel of what the car might be doing, or do you need that race to stay green to get into a rhythm and really understand what the race is going to do?
It varies really from race to race. I think at Merritt, the long green flag runs were helping me. I could just get myself into a groove and, just start clicking off laps. Like I said, we had a race car that was very, very quick. So I didn't have to mess with my adjusters much. But we go to Silver Bullet, 2 nights later, and the cautions were actually beneficial for me. I could we'd run, 5 to 8 laps, and then, the race car may be doing something I don't like it too. So I can adjust my shocks under caution, and not that I can during green, but under caution, I kind of, get to think about what I'm doing a little more and count clicks and stuff like that. So yeah, at Merritt, the cautions didn't really help me, but at Silver Bullet, they did.
Okay, so let's talk about Silver Bullet. This was another night of kind of being right around the bottom. Although I want to point out in the heat race, you were on the bottom and you were doing all right. And then all of a sudden, Brian Ruhlman finds something and he gets around you. And that groove never came back in the feature. I kind of thought it might. Did that open some question marks for you when Brian passed you the way he did?
It definitely did. I was expecting it, somebody to try it in the feature and kind of hear them out there. That was another night, kind of the same deal as Merritt, right? We drew the pole. Not very typical of me to draw, the pole, all the way back at Mansfield. 3 nights in a row we draw it. Usually I'm a terrible redrawer. But luck has, fell my way that way. So yeah, I kind of back to that same mindset of, I'm not going to leave the bottom. The bottom was good, for most of the night, if not all night. And then was just going to kind of play it by ear. And if somebody got out there, then, start to make the move then. But yeah, Brian was quick from the time he dropped the trailer door. I definitely think the redraw helped us at Silver Bullet. I don't know if we don't start on the front row, if we win that race. I don't think we had, at least leading up to that, we didn't really have a car to beat. We were a solid 3rd to 5th place car. But yeah, thank you to Brian. This is a testament, back to the racing world about how it's all family. Brian kind of worked with us back in the pits. We pitted next to him all weekend, and, he was helpful enough, and I'm super grateful for it, that Brian's a nice guy and kind of helped us out setup wise some, to go out there and compete against him.
Korbyn, you talk about the, running the bottom on these races. What do you prefer? I mean, we talk to guys, they like a little moisture up top, and just, you talk to Stambaugh, he'll just hang it out on the edge, right? You'll know where to find him. He's going to be up on the lip all night. And, some guy, dry slick, some guys want the whole field to have to pedal the car, or you like when it lays rubber down and you actually got a lane to run in. What do you prefer?
I honestly prefer slick to a cushion up top. If I have the option to run the top, that's where I'll be. I have a little more fun up there. I feel more comfortable running the top. The bottom is a technical game. There's infield tires or infield walls and not missing your marks. So you got to be perfect when you're running the bottom. I feel like when you run the cushion, there's just a little bit of leeway. You can get up there, if you plug it in a little too hard, then you can, stand the car up and drive out of it, and or you can use the cushion to build bite. So, I prefer to run the top, but, it was out of character, but we did win 2 on the bottom this weekend. So I will run the bottom, but yeah, no, I definitely prefer a cushion.
The surfaces here are so different, and I'm not saying they're bad at all. Because I think you look at Silver Bullet, and there was a time where I looked out at that racetrack and everybody was spread out. I mean, it was traffic everywhere. And so that was, I think that was exciting for fans. But tracks in Michigan are just a lot different. There's not a lot of clay content to most of them. And then you get over to Indiana and tracks are a lot heavier. You get to Ohio and it's kind of a flip of the coin what you're going to get. What were these tracks that we went to? I wish you'd have got a chance to be at Hartford, because it's to me, Hartford is completely different from Merritt, and Merritt is completely different from Silver Bullet. How were these tracks? I know you went to Victory Lane each night, but what was the challenge for you and your team? Did these tracks throw you curveballs?
Yeah, they had a lot less bite than usual. And I definitely think, that threw us for a curve. They got a lot of sand in them. I feel like, they're a lot sandier and grittier, and that tends to not leave the track a whole lot of bite, whether it has a bunch of moisture or not. So yeah, that kind of threw us for a curveball, and I think that's why we struggled some at Silver Bullet. Silver Bullet was really slick right from the beginning. And we just kind of struggled. Like, I felt like we were trying to play catch up all night. And when you get behind the 8 ball, in this stuff, it's hard to get back to where you need to be. And I think we just kind of unloaded just a little bit behind the 8 ball. We weren't terrible, but we just weren't great. And definitely, that kind of messed with us, but thankfully we were able to find it.
And it's interesting to say that, right? And I think, there are some people that will say, how can you say you were behind the 8 ball? You were perfect at Merritt. I mean, to a T, pole sitter, heat race winner, redrawed the number 1 pill, and go on to win the race. You were almost perfect at Silver Bullet. And for you to still say you're behind the 8 ball, like, how do you defend that? I guess if there's a fan listening who says, where does that come from?
Yeah, I like to try and I want to get to a point, and I know, nobody will ever get there, but like where you're perfect every time you hit the racetrack. And I think we all chase that. We were definitely, Merritt, I think, was about as close to perfect as we could get. I felt really comfortable, every time we hit the racetrack. The car kind of started to go away right at the end of the feature. I'd say the last 3 to 5 laps.
If you get a caution at Merritt, do you have your hands full?
What's that?
If there's a caution at Merritt, are your hands full?
I think they could have been, yeah. Yeah, I definitely think, I would have had challenge from Brian. He showed it there, if you watch my race pass, he showed it with lap times. He was definitely getting quick and started clicking off the same, if not, just a little bit faster laps than us at the end. So yeah, I think I would have had to have started playing some defense and had a lot on my mind.
So let's before we let you get out of here, man, what do you got coming up next? Where are the check marks on your schedule where you think this is where we can keep this string going?
We're off this weekend right now, or this coming weekend. And then we're back with GLTS back at Mount Pleasant and Winston the following weekend. We are big Ohio State Buckeyes fans. But Michigan's been pretty good to me. It's been pretty good. We were honestly talking. We might have to buy some Michigan hats or something. It's been pretty good to us. But
I've always got one near. So make sure we got that on.
I might have some family that would kill me if I had a picture of it on. But
I'm trying to look.
Michigan's been good to us. I've enjoyed it, and the racetracks have been a lot of fun. So I'm definitely looking forward to Mount Pleasant and Winston both, and I'm hoping maybe we can continue the streaks.
Well, it was great having you on Horsepower Happenings twice, okay? Because that's about it.
I do want to ask you, sometimes it's fun. We try to get some personal stuff in here. I don't know how recent, but engaged. Talk about the family aspect of what you guys are doing.
Oh, man, racing as a family team is where it's at. I've always had that dream to drive for somebody else and do this as a living. But to be honest with you, man, doing it as a family, it's perfect. It doesn't get any better than that. My dad has, always been my crew chief. And back when I first started, my grandparents, Mel and Papa Hasylett, owned everything. And then, here in the recent, probably last 4 or 5 years or so, my dad's kind of started to take over. My mom and dad now own everything. So, having mom and dad and the grandparents, my fiance, and, my sister, when she likes to tag along, it's been awesome. I can't wait to, we get married here in October and maybe, kids here within the next, year or two and hopefully, keep the family tradition going.
And by the way, not just doing podcasts, you've got a lot of media out, for what you're doing. Talk about that, because I've seen more in-car cam footage from Korbyn Hayslett's POV in these past 3 or 4 days than anybody else. And you've got all this YouTube stuff going on. Talk about the vlogs.
Yeah, so those are all shout out to Landon Francis. We call him Bugs. If you ever see him at the track with us, don't be afraid to call him Bug. I think it's funny. He's always, from the day he started with us, asked if he could put GoPros on the car. And I know a lot of guys are very superstitious about that. It doesn't seem to bother me at all, and I actually like them. I get to go back and kind of see maybe what I'm doing in the car, or as lines develop, from a driver's standpoint. So yeah, I think it's great that he puts those on there, and it's great for the fans. They get to see, what I get to see, and see different perspectives of a race. Get to see how close we really get on track at the speeds we were going. Yeah, and I think, it's awesome for sponsors, to get that highlight as well.
Absolutely, man. Well, congratulations on a big weekend. Points leader in the Boss Series and Great Lakes Traditional Sprints. We'll be interested to see how the rest of the summer plays out, if things will fall the way you need them to be able to take care of business in both ways. So congratulations. Nice job. Thanks for making time for us.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Okay, we'll take a break. When we come back, installment number 2 of Credentialed with Koty Geyer. Our guest, Rand Thompson, straight ahead here on Horsepower Happenings.
Think your camper handled the winter just fine? Think again. Every time the temperature fluctuates, trap moisture freezes and expands, turning tiny hairline cracks into major pathways for water. That freeze-thaw cycle is a silent killer for RV seals. If you haven't had a professional roof and exterior sealant inspection this spring, you're likely towing a leak you can't see yet. Midwest Camper Repair specializes in catching that winter damage before it reaches your interior. We're mobile and we check it all from the roof to the floor. Don't let a winter crack ruin your summer fun. Call Midwest Camper Repair today and start the season sealed tight. Call 419-799-1171. That's 419-799-1171. Or visit MidwestCamperRepair.com. Serving the tri-state area from the roof to the floor, Midwest Camper Repair has you covered.
KG Media is your home for all things photography, race day social media, and more. Koty Geyer brings more than a decade of experience working with the top brands in short track racing. From individual photos to full race days, social media to PR, KG Media can make your race team, race track, or touring series stand out. For more information, go to marknews.org or visit KG Media on Facebook.
One of the biggest question marks for your event is, what are we going to do for food? Heavenly Smoked Barbecue is your answer. Serving Michigan and Northern Indiana, Heavenly Smoked Barbecue brings the best from the grill to your plate with pulled pork, pork belly, chicken, mac and cheese, baked beans, and more. Graduation open house, birthday parties, weddings, festivals. If it needs food, Heavenly Smoked Barbecue will offer options that will have them saying, that smells heavenly. Call 269-908-3948 or find Heavenly Smoked Barbecue on Facebook.
Mark News is back. Michigan Area Racing Connection News keeps fans in the tri-state area up to date on national headlines, local results, regional news, and so much more. Home of the Horsepower Happenings podcast, 500 Sprintcast, Gridline Social, Job Bank, Fastlane Images, KG Media, and so much more. MarkNews.org is the one stop for any race fan who needs to know what's going on in the Michigan area. Plus, get the Mark News weekly newsletter sent right to your inbox, FREE free. Sign up today and learn more at marknews.org. Marknews.org, the Michigan Area Racing Connection.
And welcome back to Horsepower Happenings. This week, it's the second installment of Credentialed, and excited to bring on the newly named recipient of the Michigan Motorsports Hall of Fame Mick Schuler Award for 2026. He's track photographer at Flat Rock and Toledo Speedway. From Level Pebble Racing Picks, it's Rand Thompson. Hey, Rand, welcome into Horsepower Happenings.
Hi, guys. It's a pleasure being on.
So you've been at it for a long time. First, just tell us what led to you getting a camera in your hand at the racetrack.
Well, it's kind of funny. I got a late start. My parents had less than zero interest in racing. I never went to a track. I didn't know anyone that ever raced. And finally wore my dad down, and we went to the Indy 500. So that was my first race. Unfortunately, it was 1973. If you did a poll of the worst Indy 500 weekend in 115 years, that would come out on top easily. All we really saw was an aborted start. It rained for 3 days, and we had to leave. But just that pace lap alone was like the greatest thing I'd ever seen.
Yeah, then so started off at the Indianapolis 500 with your father, and just how did you end up at the local short tracks?
Well, took me a while. Because I went to Indianapolis, I went to MIS, that was pretty much about it. I did go to Mount Clemens a couple times, but I was in a 10-year college plan for better or worse, and I just really couldn't have either the time or the money to go. I finally graduated from Lawrence Tech in 1988, and then the floodgates opened, right? So I bought a camera as a graduation present to myself. One of the first races I went to, I got the Mark Times paper, and ARCA was running at Flat Rock Speedway. And, I said, that's a pretty big time series. They race at Daytona and MIS and all kinds of big tracks. So I think I'll go check that out. And honestly, just fell in love with Flat Rock. Gary was the announcer, and I just thought he was wonderful. And then, of course, the king of Flat Rock Speedway was our hometown hero, Joy Fair, from Pontiac. So, that kind of sealed the deal. I didn't have any access, though. So the only pictures I could really take were actually through the holes in the chain link fence on pre-race, right? But, that's kind of how it all started. I have no photography background of any kind. I'm a race fan that bought a camera and wanted to take pictures of race cars. I sat in the stands over 20 years primarily at Flat Rock and Toledo. I did some traveling around, and never in a million years would I have thought I'd have been a track photographer. But 2009 was a game-changing year for me in a couple ways. I got downsized after working at a job for 18 years. I'm 50 years old. And all of a sudden, the Mark Times being relaunched. I end up covering Flat Rock and Toledo. Most fun I've ever had. After 20 some years of buying a ticket, just signing in at the pit shack is pretty cool, right? So, especially if you're unemployed. So, most fun I ever had. Unfortunately, the paper started with a huge flourish and ended with a whimper about 4 months later. And, I thought the track was going to cut me off. There's no paper. There's no reason to keep letting me into the pits and have my run of the place every week. And for reasons that I completely still don't understand, Scott Schultz and Ron Drager just let me come in every week like I belonged, and honestly treated me like gold there. Always kind of felt guilty, like I had to earn my way somehow. Did whatever I could for them. It really wasn't a lot. And then opportunity opened where Scott called me, asked me if I wanted to take over as photographer in 2014. Had pretty rudimentary equipment, not a whole lot of skills, but it's been a great run. Never would I have thought I'd have been in that position, especially at my two most favorite racetracks.
We talk to a lot of teams and a lot of drivers about how the sport evolves from the racer standpoint. And if anybody knows anything about media right now, what a whirlwind of changes that it's going through, let alone the last 6 months or the last decade. Things have just changed so much, Rand. And I think there's got to be some gratification, first of all, that people still crave a quality photo gallery from a race, not just some cell phone pictures that people can take from the stands. That's my first point. And then my second point is that you are kind of competing with those things, though. You are competing with the guys who have the iPhones and can just take their own pictures. How have you not necessarily combated that, but dealt with it, I guess, as that's changed so rapidly?
Well, a couple things, right? I work directly for the track. I'm not a freelance guy. I'm more than happy to be at Flat Rock and Toledo Speedway every weekend. I mean, that's family, that's my home. I'm there to see the track succeed. That's my primary motivation. And I'm also preserving history. We're coming up on our 75th anniversary at Flat Rock. And, you go to the old timer reunions and everybody's poring over these old pictures. And, I want to make sure that I'm preserving the history for future generations. And I'm glad you said that about cell phones. I really don't care what the fans do, or the family of the drivers in Victory Lane, because if they buy a picture from me, that's fine. If they don't, they don't. It doesn't really change anything I'm doing. I'm never going to have a problem with the driver's wife taking cell phone pictures after what those families go through for those guys to get out and race every weekend. It doesn't bother me in the least. I do think though that prints are important. I can envision a scenario where guy's going to be telling his grandkids 30 years from now that he used to race, but his phone fell in the lake, and, and he lost the pictures he had. And I still think there's a lot of value to having hard copy prints. I really do.
Rand, what I think is cool, and we've had many conversations when there's time down at the racetrack. What I think is really cool is, you said you started going and Joy Fair was your hero watching him. I mean, and you've become close friends with the family, other families, even families at Corgan Oil Speedway when you were there. That's got to feel pretty cool. You kind of stargazing at the beginning, and now these people are all your friends. That's got to be a pretty cool deal.
Yeah, that is the greatest thing about our sport, is those opportunities are there. My two favorite racers were Joy Fair on a local level and Joe Ruttman. And I got to be pretty good friends with both those guys. And, remembering back to when I'd be sitting in the stands watching Chuck Ramel and Royce Cornett and, Dave Kuhlman and, all those guys. And, to actually end up being friends with them now years later, you can't beat anything like that.
Yeah, and now you were talking earlier about wanting to preserve the history of racing, and you're a board member on the Michigan Motorsports Hall of Fame as well as the Michigan Auto Racing Fan Club. Just what are some of the things you do with the two organizations?
Well, I'll start off with the fan club. I've been on the board. I'm the longest serving member currently on the board, so I'm kind of the tie back to the previous regimes. But being that I'm at Flat Rock or Toledo every weekend, I'm really not able to support a lot of their events during the season. I just can't. So I'm primarily handling some promotional things, getting the message out, helping plan events and things like that. The Motorsports Hall of Fame, I've probably been on the board. This will be my third year, I believe. And I'm really excited about that because this year, one of my most cherished friends, Ralph Young, is getting inducted. And I had nominated him and wrote the biography. And, as board members, we get one vote, same as anybody that's inducted. We really don't have any more power than that. But I am so happy that the same day I'm going to be receiving the Mick Schuler Award, Ralph is going to be up there being inducted in the Hall of Fame as Benny Parsons' crew chief.
Yeah, and going off of that, you were recently named the Mick Schuler Award winner. Just how cool is that?
Yeah, I can't believe it. I mean, I'm still looking back to when I'd sit in the stands and, honestly, my wife used to go after Joy Fair retired. She kind of got tired of going. We moved out near MIS, so, it's a fairly long trip. So I just went by myself and, I might talk to the guy sitting next to me. I might not, but, not only am I stunned that I'm working at those tracks every week, to receive a prestigious award like that. And Mick Schuler was did PR work, announcing, and I'm finding out was a photographer. So I think that's pretty cool. I think I'm the first photographer to ever receive that award. So I'm thinking, Koty, I know you fall into that camp, right? So, it's kind of nice that people recognize what we're doing.
I think it's great, all the different things that you do with your photography. And what I say that is, there's a lot of different styles of photographers that exist and a lot of different things you can do. And Rand, I have a love for the classic, get the car in the frame, get the action shots in the frame and let the on-track action speak for itself. But you get a chance to do that at so many different places, I think it's I want to say February because it feels like it's around the time Daytona gets started. I get a couple of pictures from you from down south at the road courses, and we'll talk about what's going on up here at Gingerman, and I love how much you love to take that camera to any. I was going to say motorsports event, and then I backtrack and think about the pictures I've seen from car shows. So any sort of event that has an engine, you love to take that camera to.
Well, Koty will understand this, right? You can't go to a race. You feel lost if you go to a race and you're not taking pictures.
Why do you? Go ahead, because I was going
to say one of my. So Daytona this year was especially fun for me. The guy that owned the company I worked for 40 years ago started a full-time NASCAR O'Reilly Series team this year. So they had run part-time for a couple years with Austin Green driving, but that was kind of the start of their full-time season, and they had to make it in on time, so qualifying was a bit nerve-wracking, but so that was pretty cool to have a friend that owned a car in that series.
Rand, a lot, we talk a lot about Flat Rock at Toledo, and then you were Korbyn Oil for a while. Let's talk about what people don't know unless they know you intimately, your love for road racing, and that's Waterford Hills, and you love going down to Sebring in the winter. Talk about how much you love the road racing, because I know you are in another world when you get to be around those people.
Yeah, it's I grew up in Pontiac, and Waterford Hills was just down the road. One of the very first tracks I went to, I actually went a couple times, volunteered to be a corner worker. I was going to college at Michigan State at the time, so I didn't do it a lot, but I've got a big emotional attachment to that track alone. And it's just such a wonderful facility. And I just think that the vast majority of race fans don't even know it exists right in their own backyard. It's a shame our sport's so compartmentalized.
Yeah,
we got dirt, we got pavement, then you got, road racing, that's not any fun, and, drag racing, but they're all cars, they're all motors, and, people are trying to compete as hard as they can.
Now, I've shot one road race in my life, but just what's the biggest difference between going to a road race and shooting versus what you normally do on a Saturday night?
Well, road racing, the thing that's really cool about it is pretty much every ticket's a pit pass. And the spectator areas, I don't even ask for media credentials at Sebring because the pit area, the spectator areas, there's about as many good spots as you could find. And you just get in your car and drive over a few corners to a different one, But yeah, it's a Trans Am series is some really cool stuff. But my friend that owned the O'Reilly Series team, that's why I used to go to Sebring and watch them race. So they're not really doing that anymore. So I may not be back for quite a while, but I'll be at Waterford Hills for sure.
So when you go to Waterford Hills, what are some of the things that fans and other media people that are tuning in, what are some of the things they could expect?
Well, it's the same type of scenario, right? The neat thing about Waterford Hills is I think admission is $5. And to upgrade to a paddock pass, which is their verbiage for pits, is another $5.
Wow.
And you can't imagine anything that's, more affordable than something like that.
Can you imagine getting a circle track pit pass for $10?
Yeah. And, and the thing is, the other cool thing they do is they have a couple intermissions and they let you drive around the track in your own car at pace car speed. I mean, you can't really race, but so you get a real good feel for how difficult a racetrack like that really is from a technical standpoint. But yeah, it's a wonderful facility, 100% volunteer, and how they do what they do is just amazing, And the drivers, so road racing typically at that level, there's no prize money. You get a trophy. At the end of the year, I think you get a trophy. No prize money. Yet the drivers, and they race about once a month because they've got some restrictions based on housing developments sort of surrounded it now. But, you don't see drivers being very upset with each other. And, everybody seems to be enjoying themselves. So it's a great atmosphere there.
I want to go back to the award, in the Mick Schuler Award. It's always been interesting to me when a sitting member of the Michigan Motorsports Hall of Fame either gets inducted or gets an award, how they get that through without that person knowing that it has happened.
No, I knew it was happening. We were going through all the award winners, and one of the other board members started talking about photographers. And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, about time. Not
just about photographers in general, right?
Right. Because, it's and then the next thing you know, the board's someone nominated me, and then the votes came down and it was done. I was pretty shocked sitting there.
What is with your time on the board, and you said it's been about 3 years, how have you enjoyed the process of, because being inducted into the Hall of Fame, some people don't care about it. They are appreciative of it when it does happen, but it's not their mission. And then for other people, it's something that they hope to be able to do, through their career. Yeah. How has it been to be a part of so many really life-changing moments for so many great people in motorsports?
Well, it is really cool, and you see people just so happy, and even we love to get people in there that are still alive to accept it, right? Mm-hmm. But even when you're inducting somebody that raced 60 years ago, to see their kids or their grandkids up there, just overjoyed that somebody's recognizing them for their accomplishments from that long ago. It's pretty moving sometimes. One thing I want to add on that. So we only vote people in. A biography has to be submitted, right? Not that AJ Foyt would go in the Michigan Motorsports Hall of Fame, but we can't vote him in if there's no biography. So everybody out there listening, if you've got somebody that you think is a deserving candidate, work on writing a biography. Our deadline for submitting those for the next year is March, so you've got all winter to do it. But, we need those biographies coming in.
And I got to tell you guys something. None of us do this for any awards. Zach and I were pretty cool. We thought it was awesome when we were honored by the Michigan Auto Racing Fan Club back in 2021 with the Motorsports Media Award. And that just made us want to do better, right? We didn't. Yep, there you go. Show it, Zach. We didn't get complacent. We just do this because we love the sport. And I got to tell you, you're the same way, Rand. Inside, I got to tell everybody, the year I retired, Rand Thompson doesn't do this for any notoriety, but without me knowing, he made a collage of shots in a photo like this. Of my race car, some of my victories, and took it down in the pit area and had it signed for my retirement and brought it up to me. And I said, "What do you want for this?" He goes, "Nothing." And it was probably I hold that photo probably closer to me than any of the trophies I won over 25 years.
That means a lot.
And I've told you that before, Rand.
Yeah.
That was cool. You did it. It was unexpected, and it just shows what kind of a person you are. Thank you.
Yeah, it's to piggyback on that, we work together at Flat Rock quite a bit, and along with Gary. I am so proud of the staff we have at that racetrack. It's family to me, always will be. And none of us are there. There's no monetary reward, really. I mean, gas money at best, right? And, everyone that works at racetracks, whether it's Flat Rock or Toledo or, Crystal or Berlin or Owasso or any of them, they love the sport just as much as the people racing the cars and working on them every week. We just found our own way of channeling what talents and skills we had to be involved in it somehow. But I don't want anyone to underestimate the passion that track staff has for racing.
Koty, it's your segment. Anything else, my friend?
Oh, I guess just what events do you have coming up on your calendar, and where can we find your work at?
So pretty much Flat Rock and Toledo. I'll be at Waterford Hills for our fan club day on I think it's July 26th on a Sunday. But everything I goes on my website. It's levelpebblepics.com. And usually everything's up there by Monday or Tuesday after the race. Kind of interesting. You talked about picture styles before, and Zach said I kind of just do the old school stuff. And that kind of aligns with what I said about preserving history. I'm honored to work for Ron Drager. I have the utmost respect for that man in any way, shape, or form for what he's done. And more than anyone I know in the sport, he really recognizes the stars and the drivers that we had in the past history. And, I want to keep building on that. And I try to make it clear, I'm not creating art. I'm trying to do realistic pictures of what the cars were like, because, people are pouring through these things 20, 30, 40 years from now, long after I'm gone. I don't want to think they want to see a picture of with all kinds of blown out wild colors and stuff in it. But everyone's got their own style, and that's okay.
And that's what's funny about it is I said that, and Koty and I talked about this. His shooting style is different than yours, Rand, and your shooting style is different than a Jim Denhammer or a Jim Fisher. That I kind of put them in that same category of, just get the car in frame and document that there was cars on the racetrack and if there was racing action. I like it all. You know what I mean? Like, I think it all has its place, is my point.
Yeah, it's a lot different being a track photographer than a freelance, because, I got to be there every single week. I got to be there for every single lap. And at the end of the night, the driver that won the Street Stock B feature, it means as much to him as a guy that may have won, the CRA feature or something. Mm-hmm. And you gotta treat everybody the same, and they're all stars in my opinion, because I've never driven a lap, and I still look every week. I don't know how these guys do it.
Well, Rand, I want to echo what Koty said and say thank you for being on this segment. Congratulations on the Mick Schuler Award. So you're the first photographer to be presented this award then, huh?
As far as I know, yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, lead the charge.
Yeah.
lead it with pride. Congratulations, Rand, and kind of as Rich said, I appreciate our friendship that we've been able to develop over the years, and everything that you've done for motorsports and helped us with our projects, and we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yep. And Zach, if you want some Flat Rock and Toledo content for your version of Mark, feel free to reach out.
You know I will. I'm not shy.
Right. And I just want, so as a segue to Steve Needles coming up.
Yes.
Right. So one of my favorite victory lane moments was when Steve finally won the Glass City 200 at Toledo. And he had that race in his back pocket a couple times. It got away from him. So, he was really emotional to finally win it. And the neatest part about that whole night was he brought his young son, I believe his name was Sawyer, out there for victory lane pictures, and that kid stole the show. So one of my greatest moments. So I just wanted to kind of give you a lead into your next guest.
Found with Madman Signs and Designs. Flashy, clean, color, or simplistic, Madman Signs and Designs can make sure your race car, business vehicle, merchandise, or even your iRacing rig looks exactly how you dreamed it would. Get designs that help your brand, team, or business stand out from the crowd with the Madman at Madman Signs and Designs. Call 517-647-9573 or find Madman Signs and Designs on Facebook.
Mark News is back. Michigan Area Racing Connection News keeps fans in the tri-state area up to date on national headlines, local results, regional news, and so much more. Home of the Horsepower Happenings podcast, 500 Sprintcast, Gridline Social, Job Bank, Fastlane Images, KG Media, and so much more. MarkNews.org is the one stop for any race fan who needs to know what's going on in the Michigan area. Plus, get the Mark News weekly newsletter sent right to your inbox, FREE free. Sign up today and learn more at MarkNews.org. MarkNews.org, the Michigan Area Racing Connection.
KG Media is your home for all things photography, race day social media, and more. Koty Geyer brings more than a decade of experience working with the top brands in short track racing. From individual photos to full race days, social media to PR, KG Media can make your race team, race track, or touring series stand out. For more information, go to marknews.org or visit KG Media on Facebook.
One of the biggest question marks for your event is, what are we going to do for food? Heavenly Smoked Barbecue is your answer. Serving Michigan and Northern Indiana, Heavenly Smoked Barbecue brings the best from the grill to your plate with pulled pork, pork belly, chicken, mac and cheese, baked beans, and more. Graduation open house, birthday parties, weddings, festivals. If it needs food, Heavenly Smoked Barbecue will offer options that will have them saying, that smells heavenly. Call 269-908-3948 or find Heavenly Smoked Barbecue on Facebook.
Welcome back to Horsepower Happenings, and thanks, Zach, at the last second. We figured we've talked to this gentleman quite a bit lately, but we had to bring him in tonight after the win in the spirit of 76, reveal the hammer win, just because, which I didn't know until that race was over, that it had been almost 2 years since he won a reveal the hammer race, which I didn't believe. Steve Needles, welcome into Horsepower Happenings.
Hey, guys, thanks for having me.
Did you see the look on his face when you said that? He was real happy that you brought that stat up right out of the gate.
You know, it's funny. I had a phone
I've
call.
talked to him a lot more, and it just, I don't know.
I got a phone call from somebody this morning that they said the same thing, and I'm like, really? It's been 2 years? I'm like, it hasn't been 2 years since I won a race, but I guess it really has been 2 years since I won a reveal the hammer race. So, yeah, pretty cool.
We just got rid of Rand Thompson, the track photographer at Flat Rock and Toledo, and we were going to lead off with something he left us with. So I'm going to start this off with you. One of his favorite moments in motorsports photography was your win at the Glass City 200. And he said, when you were down there with Sawyer, you guys stole the show.
Not you guys.
Sawyer stole the show.
Sawyer stole the show.
When you won your first Glass City 200. And that's one of his favorite photography moments.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good one. I love that one too. That was that meant so much. And then we got another good one this weekend. My daughter Savannah was there too. So we got her included this time. So it's always special when you get to have them. I mean, it's always special to win a race, but it's really special when you get to share it with your kids too.
Well, let's get right to the race, man. I mean, Trayton Lapsevich looked like he was going to run away with that thing while you were trying to get to the front. And everything kind of met in the middle a little bit. I mean, he kind of hung around up there, but you had to work a little harder to get up there to him.
Yeah, man. He he's a heck of a driver. He's a heck of a race car driver. I'll tell you, between him and Kyle Crump, those guys, obviously, I mean, they win in everything they get in. Tons of respect for both of them. And they got out there, they got a pretty big lead. And, we got into some lap traffic there, and I was able to track him down, and it got pretty exciting there for a few minutes in some lap traffic. And then I can't remember what exactly caused it, but we wound up having a caution there, and we got to go back at it again, kind of re-racked, and got some of the lap cars out of there, and got to race, pretty hard, just the three of us there for a while. And that was some good fun racing.
I just want to talk to you, but the other cautions don't matter. It's the caution with a half a lap to go, and they put it back to 2. I don't want to know what was going inside your headset at that time.
Well, you probably really don't want to know what was being said. It was definitely not, what do they say, not safe for work. It was definitely some pretty colorful language being spit out in my helmet at that moment. So, yeah, no, luckily it all worked out, but yeah, I didn't need that. My blood pressure didn't need that.
Let's talk about the restart real quick, because you had to do it twice, right?
Yep.
You took the outside, which surprised me to begin with, right? And Trayton got a heck of a run. He left way early. I think everybody in the world knew it, and you knew it. And then when they called that one back, did you know he was going to be a sitting duck because he could not go?
Well, so the reveal the hammer rules are a little bit different in that, the leader has to fire first, and the leader is supposed to make it back to the start finish line first, but they don't have a restart box. It's pretty much anytime once you get to turn 3, you can fire whenever, as long as the leader fires first. So the first restart we had side by side, he was the leader, and his engine kind of stumbled a little bit, and I lifted to make sure that I didn't beat him back to the line. And he got a really good, about the time I lifted, his took off, and it really made me kind of look like a fool. So, luckily within a couple of laps, we did run a few green flag laps, and we wound up having another caution. But the next one, I kind of knew what to expect, and I was able to time it up a little bit better. And we were pretty much nose to nose when we got to the line, which was legal. But then I was able to kind of beat him to the corner. And, once I got a nose ahead, I kind of knew I could control him on the bottom a little bit, and was able to do that. And once I got clear of him in clean air, then we had a really good car. And then when we got the last restart there with a half lap to go, I was the leader, and then I got to control it. Right. And once I knew I could control it, then I knew we were in pretty good shape from that point. So, just because I knew, his had stumbled 2 times before that, I thought, well, if I catch him and it stumbled again, like, we're going to get a really good launch on him here. And that's actually exactly how it played out. So it worked out to our favor, there at the end. But
and race the event too, right? I mean, anytime, and I was going to ask this too, is anytime Reveal the Hammer shows up, not that Outlaw Super Late Model Racing isn't hard enough on its own, but you're gonna bring in the Rorigs. You never know if Kyle Crump's gonna show up, and then Lapsevich rolls in. You're there. It's stacked, right? And then you've got Berlin, which is such a variable on its own. I think there's got to be some real gratitude to getting the job done.
Yeah, I mean, these races are so hard to win anyway. And then, Berlin's just a unique beast all in and of itself. And you throw Tyler Rohrig and Adam Terry and Kyle Crump and Trayton Lapsevich, you throw all those guys in the mix, and all of a sudden, man, you got a tough field of cars to try to beat. And, we've had a fair amount of success at Berlin over the years, but man, you throw those guys in the mix and it's anybody's ball game. Tyler's kind of been the guy to beat there for several years now. And so, to be able to come out ahead of him is just that's a feat in and of itself. And, it was really good. Like Kyle Busch said the week before he passed away, you just never know when your last one's going to come. And as I get older, it just, that really hits close to home for me. So, anytime we can get one, especially at a place like Berlin against a field like that, it means a ton.
Now clarify something for I was not only just fans in general fans, but also me, and I live this sport every day. What are you driving right now? Is that not your stuff? Because I understand that you've been struggling to get some parts and some things done for your own equipment. So tell everybody what you've been racing these last few weeks.
My car's on jack stands in the shop. I think we're getting a little bit closer to maybe having the white 14 car back out at some point, but we're still a little ways away from that. So the beginning of the year when it wasn't looking good as far as me getting my own stuff together, Todd Rosebrew called. And I've done a fair amount of work for Todd over the years, and we've gotten to be really good friends. Todd offered me his ride for the first Owasso race because I knew I wasn't going to have mine together. And then that turned into, well, what do you think about going to Berlin for the first show to shake it down? Oh, yeah, that sounds great. Well, then that got rained out. So we wound up going to the first Owasso race, and we had a couple of little issues, and then we got it back together for the second Owasso race, and because I still didn't have any of my stuff together. And then it was, well, why don't you come up to Whittemore and run it for my dad's memorial race? So yeah, let's do that. Well, what do you think about Berlin again? Yeah, well, let's go run Berlin. So it's just kind of been a week to week deal. And but he's been so good to me, so gracious. I mean, that car's about 4 or 5 years old, but it hasn't been raced a whole lot. So I built that for him back in 2021, I think 2021, something like that. And Chad raced it a few times. Todd raced it a few times. Chase raced it a couple times. And now here it sits. So, it wasn't being raced. And Todd just said, hey, man, you want to run it? Let's run it. So that's what we've been doing.
And that's what I couldn't believe, I mean, that's their third car in line because Chase has got one and Chad's driving the other one. That's like leftovers, and you're making that thing look good.
Well, and to be honest with you, like it hasn't, everybody just kind of assumed that because I raced it the first, couple, 3 times that I had it in shop and prepared it. I hadn't had that car in my shop since about 2022 until this week. It finally, I brought it back from Whittemore and was able to spend maybe a day on it. We've been so busy in the shop that I haven't had time to really spend any time on anything else. And so Thursday afternoon, we brought it out, and I'm sure Todd's probably going to listen to this. He's probably going to say, oh crap. But we took it out Thursday afternoon, and we got the gear changed and did some body work and some other maintenance and some other things. And then I got it on the scales and did some stuff, and, took it to Berlin, and, it came out of the box pretty good. So, pretty happy. I mean, it was out of the box pretty good at Whittemore too. So, those guys know their stuff. They know how to take care of a race car. So
is it different? Is it different for you to drive somebody else's equipment?
I've driven for other people a lot over the years. It started with Terry Gentry back in 2008 after Lee Anderson passed away, and I took over that ride for him the following year. So I drove for Mr. Gentry for several years. And then I drove for Brian Short for, several years as well. I spent a year driving for Bobby Blunt, and I spent a year driving for Harley Bovey of Port City Race Cars too. But all of the years of driving for Mr. Gentry and all the years driving for Brian Short, like that was all in my shop. That was never prepared anywhere else other than my shop. So yeah, they paid the bills and I was the driver, but I was also preparing it every week as well.
Now, recently you've been driving for yourself, though, right? I mean, kind of recent history. A lot of the stuff in the White 14 has all been you, right?
Yeah, that's been me. So that's been a collaboration between myself and Terry and Heather Seneker and Brandon Ernest from Ernest Performance. Chris and Adam Terry have had a hand in that as well. But that's all been essentially my own program since 2022 or 2023. So that's been all of our own program. Yeah.
So let's talk about Needle Speed Solutions. I mean, I remember when you left All Star Performance and said, I'm not going to go in the office anymore and work for a living. I'm going to do this. and I remember that was a big risk you took at that point in time.
It was. Yeah. Brian, I was driving for Brian at the time, and, they were, really heavy into the outlaw racing. And, that first year went really well. And then some things kind of changed in the off season there. Times got tough for a lot of people. And, right around the COVID time there. And I just kind of figured, you know what, I'm going to keep working on race cars until I run out of work. And I figured that last, 6 or 8 months, because I had a little bit of work lined up at the time. And I figured, no, this will last for a few months. And then I'll either go back to what I was doing before, or I'll find another day job. And the work just kept stacking up. And here we are. And right now I'm so backed up, I can't hardly see straight. So it's been a blessing. It's been amazing to see this whole thing kind of take off and grow and do what it's done.
I want to talk to you about one of your projects, because I think every time that she goes out on a racetrack, she is impressing everybody. And because I hear she just draws so much attention, and that's Chloe Mazzagatti. Talk about what you've done with her and the work you've done with her, and how she just soaks everything in like a sponge and learns.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. She's only 14. And if you talk to her, you would think she was, 18 or 19, right? Like, she's just so mature for her age. And she soaks it in. And there's times where you think, they're kids, right? And there's times you think, oh, they're not listening to what I have to say. And then she goes out and she does exactly what you say. And it's like, oh my gosh, they really do pay attention. So she's so talented, for a young 14-year-old. I mean, to me, it doesn't even matter that she's a female versus a male, in a male-dominated sport. Like, the girl part of it doesn't even come into factor for me, because she's so talented as a driver. She's miles ahead of where I was, even when I was 18, 19 years old, at 14. And, she just does such a good job. Thankful for her family for allowing me and asking me to be a part of it, and letting me teach and share some of the things that I've learned over the several years of me doing it. So we're having a lot of fun with that. I'm having a lot of fun with that. It's pretty cool. I had people that helped me out when I was young, and I never thought that I would ever be in the position to, return that favor to somebody else. And now that I'm kind of in those shoes, it's a lot cooler than I thought it would ever be, pretty awesome.
I want to take a quick second here to say thank you to our sponsor for this interview. That is Independence Heating and Cooling. And the IHC Pros Comfort Plan probably came into play for several of you last week. And if your HVAC system went down during the heat last week, you probably thought to yourself, we should have been on the IHC Pros Comfort Plan. For less than $13 a month, the IHC Pros can come and make sure that your HVAC system is running smoothly and ready for the extreme heat and humidity that Michigan summers bring. And Steve Needles is going to tell us here in just a little while how races are won in the shop during the week, and those same rules apply to home ownership. You do the maintenance, you make sure that things are ready to go, and when it's time to use it, all of it, it's ready and you don't have issues. Call our friends. They're great supporters of Horsepower Happenings. 517-425-0224 for $12.99 a month. They will come and make sure that your system is ready to rock, and you get savings on emergency and scheduled services when you're a part of the plan. 517-425-0224, or visit them online at ihcpros.com. Independence Heating and Cooling is Southern Michigan's Bryant dealer. Bryant, whatever it takes. So let's do the natural segue. Steve, how'd you handle the heat last week? And really, we say that a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but how does that play into your preparation when you're getting ready to go to a place like Berlin?
Well, it's kind of funny because I got picked on a little bit last week. I actually the heat doesn't bother me much, right? If you see me at a racetrack, 99% of the time I'm going to be wearing a sweatshirt. And so I was talking to Mike Mazzagatti one day last week, and I had just gotten back. It was like 94 degrees, and I had just gotten back from like a 2-mile run. And, he was laughing at me, telling me how nuts I was. And then, I said, well, I was just trying to get prepared for Berlin this weekend because it's going to be hot. And then we went and practiced with her Friday at Berlin with Chloe, and they were all taking bets on whether I was going to show up in a sweatshirt or not. And sure enough, I showed up in a black sweatshirt, and they're like, what is wrong? So, yeah, I'm always in a sweatshirt. The heat, for whatever reason, doesn't ever seem to bother me. I don't know why that is, but they always ask me, if I want a water bottle or if I want air in my helmet or whatever, and I've never had any of that stuff, and I don't know, the heat doesn't seem to bug me too much. Even as I get older and fatter, it still doesn't seem to bug me too much.
All right, so Steve Lizardman Needles is okay with the heat. Understood.
I guess. Oh,
I want to talk, kind of going back to what Rich was talking about with Chloe. How encouraged are you right now to see, not just Chloe, but Bryce and Mason, and there's just a big youth movement going on right now. And like you said, these kids are getting in these cars, these really fast race cars, younger than we ever had a chance to, way younger than Rich's generation ever thought about getting in a race car. First of all, it's exciting. It is encouraging. But second of all, there's such a balance that has to be walked there. And as the guy who's setting up these race cars and kind of managing these teams, how are you dealing with that?
Well, it's encouraging to see these young kids coming up, right? I mean, it's no secret this outlaw program 5 years ago was on life support. And, to have these young 13, 14, 15-year-olds coming in and joining us, that's good for the future, right? And that's to me, that's the biggest thing. But, these kids are so talented nowadays. They have so many more resources than we ever did, whether it be iRacing, sim time, whatever. Like, all that stuff is available to them that wasn't available to us. We had PlayStations with joysticks and NASCAR Dirt to Daytona, right? Like, it, none of it was.
And listen, Dirt to Daytona was the best game that ever was put out.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was great. But, it was nothing like what these kids have today with iRacing and the sim rigs and all that. And they come in so much more prepared than we ever did. And these kids are, Bryce and Mason and Chloe too, they've all been taught, through their families, the proper way to race. Sometimes maybe a little bit too friendly and generous. They're very respectful racers. They're under control. They're not making bad decisions. They're just doing all the right things, and they're learning, and they're finishing races, and they're getting laps under their belt, and they're learning all of the intricacies of some tough racetracks like Berlin and M40 and Kalamazoo and all of these tracks that are unique and tough in their own right. They're learning how to manage these places and learning how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. So and they're finishing the races. I mentioned that before, but they're finishing the races, which is the biggest part of the whole thing. Just getting to the end and not getting themselves in trouble.
I don't know, because I'm not in these pits, and this is probably going to be our last question because we're 10 minutes behind schedule and we got to get going. But is there any pushback to these kids? When I raced and I was a kid racer, I had some pushback, that because we were successful and we were young. And so there were some veteran teams that didn't appreciate that. What is the environment around these kids right now?
Everything that I can tell with these kids in particular that we're racing with in the Reveal the Hammer series has been nothing but positive. Good. There's a stigma around a few series that, it's all kids and all they do is run into each other, and mom and dad have a bunch of money and they're pushing these kids too far and too fast. And, they don't care about their equipment. They don't work on it. They just beat it up and they'll just pay to have somebody fix it the next week. They don't race like that with us. They race very respectfully, and they've got the attention and the respect of all of the veteran drivers around them. And that, that's a big deal. Can't be said for all 14, 15, 16-year-old racers, even some 30, 40, 50-year-old racers, right? Right. These kids are a little different. They've been bred a little bit different, and they've got the respect of all the adults, just number one, because of their talent, and number two, because of the way that they race. So it's been awesome to be a part of.
Before we let you out of here, Steve, you had brought it up, and we've known each other for a real long time, back when Outlaws were strong, and then when we were wondering what was going to happen to them, They left Kalamazoo on a regular basis. They left Corrigan Oil. The late models used to run up there on a regular basis. Did Owasso Speedway and Reveal the Hammer save the Outlaw Super Late Models for now?
For now, yeah, but I'll also throw in Kevin Sauer at Plymouth Speedway. Kevin was one of the first to really go out on a limb and create that Grand Slam series, which was kind of a progressive payout, 3 or 4 race deal. And, we had the Kalamazoo Clash and we had a couple other ones, the Summer Sizzler at New Paris. But, those were really kind of the granddaddies. And then, the rest of them just kind of filled in. Well, then, Kevin came up with the Grand Slam program, which was 4 really good paying races and a point deal at the end. And then, Reveal the Hammer came in, and then Rex came in, and they all kind of came together all at one time. And man, the combination of all of them really revived the class. And there was obviously some newness at the time with Owasso and that. And I'd say some of that's probably worn off, but it's still a really good series, and they're still trying really hard, and they want to make it. They want to make it work, and they want to continue it. I had a meeting with Rex and Dennis Wheeler last week, a Zoom meeting, and they're really determined to make their outlaw shows some of the premier shows in the area, and they're going to do anything it takes to make it happen. So there's a future there with them. There's a future with the Reveal the Hammer guys. There's still a future with Plymouth and Kalamazoo. So there's a lot of good stuff happening in outlaw late model racing right now. And, there's been some issues with car count, just I think because of some supply issues with parts and whatnot and things of that nature. But as far as the quality of races go, there's a lot of really good races still. I mean, Whittemore is going to put on another one. They put on the Growler, and then they're going to have the Buck King Memorial coming up in September. So there's a lot of really good outlaw late model races, man. We want to see guys build cars and keep coming out and doing this deal.
Well, Steve, we appreciate you making time to be on the program, and I'm gonna have you help us with the upcoming calendar of events by saying, what do you have coming up on your upcoming calendar of events, and then we'll tell everybody where else they can go see racing.
Yeah, so the next one for me, not necessarily driving, is going to be I'll be at Slinger with Chloe next Monday for the CRA Pro Series race. So we're going to go do that. And then after that, I think we're going to be at Kalamazoo on Friday the 18th of July. And then back at Owasso, I think on the 27th of July.
You do any dirt stuff at all with
got a lot of
solutions?
We haven't done any dirt stuff. We I keep busy enough on the tar side that maybe someday we'll dip into the dirt side, but right now we're sticking to tar and gravel.
Okay. The reason I ask is, Rich, we're going to fly through this because we're on a time constraint here. Dirt Car Summer Nationals held tour in our region this week. Tonight, Kankakee, which is not too far from the state line. Tomorrow, Montpelier. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all a short drive. I-96 Speedway, Butler Motor Speedway, Crystal Motor Speedway, Oakshade Raceway, and then Wayne County Speedway will wrap up the 2026 edition of the Dirt Car Summer Nationals Hell Tour. And then, Rich, Flat Rock has some racing that maybe Steve would be interested in.
Yeah, triple 50s, Outlaw Super Late Models running 50 laps on Saturday. And we got fireworks. Steve, if you haven't got enough fireworks this past weekend, bring the kids out to Flat Rock. You can race and get one of the best fireworks displays around. Gates at 5, racing at 7.
Awesome. Yeah, my kids love fireworks, so don't tell them. We'll be there.
Steve, good luck this weekend. I'd love to have more time to chat because the Slinger deal is pretty interesting. We're obviously we have an association with the Turn 1 CRA Pro Series, so that's exciting. Good luck to you. Good luck to Chloe on that deal. Nice job on the win, and man, just congratulations on everything that's been going so well for you. Happy to see it.
Awesome. I appreciate it. And anytime I get a text from you on Monday morning, I know our weekend went well.
That's right. Steve Needles, appreciate you making time to be on the show. That's going to do it for our program tonight. For Steve, for, let's see here, Koty Geyer, Rand Thompson, Korbyn Hayslett, thank you all for being on the program. For our producer, Noah Longyear, Rich France, my co-host, I'm Zach Heiser, and we'll talk to you same time, same place next week, right here on Horsepower Happenings.
You've been listening to Horsepower Happenings. The views and opinions expressed in tonight's show may not directly reflect that of Horsepower Happenings. The contents of this program may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or disseminated without the express written consent of Horsepower Happenings. Follow Horsepower Happenings on Facebook, Instagram, X, and all major podcast platforms, including Spotify, iHeart, iTunes, and Pandora, to keep up on what's happening.